Well, good morning everyone and welcome to another podcast. I'm out on my local river today, one of the hottest days of the year, so I've got out there nice and early. We've had a big dump of rain last night actually, which I kind of not put two and two together. There was some thunderstorms, so actually the river's up a bit and there's a bit of colour in there as well. The plan is today is to do what I probably love doing the most, which is upstream nymph fishing. It's my favourite form of fly fishing overall for trout and grayling. I love upstream nymphing. It's what I was brought up on. It's in my blood. So I'm going to tackle some of these little swollen pools and riffles. A few dark clouds overhead still. Lots of greenery on the bank. Got trees on both banks. I'm looking upstream. I've got my 9-foot 4-weight rod here. About 10-11 feet a leader. And a Sawyer's killer bug on. Plenty of grayling in the river. It's just whether this big dump of rains will have put them down a little bit for this morning. So let's get some line out and get the old killer bug working upstream and we'll see what happens. Start off with a few shorter casts. The sunlight's already starting to cut through the trees and I can really feel the heat on the back of my neck. Very, very hot night last night. Actually, my plan initially yesterday was to go out to the coast and have a day's saltwater fly fishing on the east coast, but it was forecast not shy of 30 degrees, no cloud in the sky, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to get absolutely cooked out on the coast, and you get all the sun's reflections bouncing up off the sea into your face, and it wouldn't have been the best fishing conditions, to be fair. I like it a little bit cloud and little bit darker skies and a little bit stormy when I'm saltwater fly fishing. It just seems to stir the fish up a bit. So I thought I'd come down on the river today, and like I say, I've just arrived and I've not put two and two together, and it's definitely a bit more water in there, and it is looking fairly coloured. So we'll just have to see. I'm casting upstream probably, I don't know, 15, 20 feet, including my leader, just letting that fly tumble back down. I've put some grease on my braided connector, high vis braided connector, greased up, and if a fish takes, I'll see the line stop and strike into it. Like I said, this is the style of fishing that I was brought up on as a child, and I know a lot of anglers, fly anglers, love their dry fly fishing, and don't get me wrong, I do love dry fly fishing, but upstream nymph fishing on these fast northern streams, and that's where my heart is really. I just keep stepping upstream, put a few into this slacker water on the left. There is a bit of visibility in the water. It's not like drinking chocolate, but it is definitely coloured, and it's just whether, if the river's still rising, it might have put the fish down. So normally I'll guarantee some fish fishing up here. I don't think I've ever not caught in under normal circumstances. But it's just whether it's put them down. We'll have to see. Nothing hatching particularly, just a few midges on the river. I've had some of my best days nymphing in slightly coloured water, but it's normally as the river's fining down from a flood, as it's losing its colour and the fish just come back on the feed. That's normally a really good time to fish. I've had some cracking days fishing like that. And I honestly don't know whether this river's still coming up or it's going down. So it could go either way, I think, today. It could go either way. Let's move up a touch more. I'm still at the bottom of the pool of this run really. I've not really got into the riffle. There's one tongue of current that's moving down the right bank just under some of the vegetation. So I'm probing that with my nymph. But I want to cover every inch of water here because I really don't know where these fish are exactly going to be. I know they'll be in this pool. I'm not sure where under these water conditions. So I want to try and cover the water almost like a grid. Overhanging trees on the right bank and some nice rocks, vegetation and lots of cover for the fish, which is good. The sun's starting to come out now. It's very muggy and humid as well. River's probably about 25 to 30 feet across here, maybe a bit less actually, maybe 20. I'm rubbish at judging distances of rivers. Right, we're into what I would consider the hot spot now under normal circumstances, and that's just as the pool is speeding up behind the riffle. But they could be anywhere. They could be right up in the shallows at the top of the riffle. Right, let's take another step up river. And the sky's just darkening a bit. There's still some hazy cloud around, which is nice. Not got the full force of the sun on me just yet, and just occasionally sun pokes through a gap in the cloud, and it's very hot. It certainly didn't get below 20 degrees last night. Just fishing with a single nymph today. I often fish with a single nymph. Occasionally I'll fish with a couple, but mainly on rivers that I don't know as well. On rivers where I know what's going on, I've been fishing for a while, I often just fish a single fly. I enjoy the simplicity of it, really. Right, let's take another step up. So hopefully if the weather behaves itself a bit better, I'm going to head out to the coast next week and do a saltwater fly fishing podcast from out there. Just getting the tide times right as well, because the mark I'm going to fish on the fly is better at low tide, so I want a low tide at a reasonable hour of the day, not too early, not too late. It's a 2-hour drive for me, so I think it's looking alright for next week, so hopefully fingers crossed. Right, I'm probing away, keep moving up this pool. We've got the water really speeding up now. Now I'm just approaching what would probably be classed as kind of the bottom of the riffle section, just about to enter the riffle, and not had a take yet. Keep moving on up. Like I say, they could be right at the top of this. There we go. That was a double take. I took it and then took it again. So grayling this, I can feel that by the way it's twisting round. Let's try and get you in the net, shall we, fella? There we go. Into the net she goes. Nice grayling, about £1/2 pound, something like that. Hook's falling out in the net as usual. Excellent. We're off the mark after 10-15 minutes with a nice grayling. You can always tell a grayling straight away. As soon as you hook it, they put up a good fight, but it's different. It doesn't have that darting run that a trout does. More of a twist, like a twisty fight. They roll in the current and get that fin up and roll away. They don't really run, and then when you get them near the net, they often do that crocodile roll of twisty turny, rolling on the surface, and that's often where you lose them, just as they come into the net and they twist and roll. That was actually just, oh, another take there, just to the left of where I would have expected them, just to the left of the main tongue of current. I'll put a few more out there and see if there's anything else in that vicinity. But it's in fairly shallow water actually, probably only a foot. In fact, this is the first time I've actually got out on the river, I think got out on this river since the start of the trout season. I've fished a few of the other streams and I've been after the pike on the podcast and been up in Scotland salmon fishing, but this is the first time I've got into my local and had a go at the trout and grayling. Mainly grayling really, that's the bulk of what I catch here. Still remains to this day, I think, my favourite fish to catch on the fly, especially through autumn. Oh, in again, that's this one. That took very late. What we got here? Another grayling by the feel of it. In the net. Yes, another grayling. That took very late actually. I was just about to recast as the line, I could see it just twitched as I was picking up, and it's always one of those cases where you pick up to recast and there's a fish there. A similar size, more of a golden coloration to that, had a gold look about it, but that's the beautiful thing about these grayling is they're all sorts of different colours depending on how the light touches them and depending if the sun's shining, and the differences in water quality, anything from almost metallic blues and purples through to chainmail silver and grey and goldy browns, and then of course as it gets close to spawning time in spring, they have that big red coloration and big fin that they display to try and attract a mate. So such a pretty fish. I could really, well, I do often just catch these all day, especially through winter. So much fun. Right, let's pick ourselves up a bit. I'm going to put a longer cast out over that far bank and just run it down under the tree. There's a nice tongue of water there. No, nothing there, so we'll keep fishing up to the riffle. So the river's about another 20 feet across here, and the trees are getting a bit more overhanging from both banks, and sky is still luckily got some cloud cover in there, but I'm dripping with sweat in this humidity. It's very warm. The water doesn't feel too hot actually. It's obviously, with having this big dump of rain overnight, it's probably cooled things down, which is good. Although we never struggle here with the fish during summer. There's plenty of nice, cool, fast, well oxygenated water for them. I keep picking my way upstream. Line's turning over nicely, and I can see the plop of that Sawyer's killer bug as it hits the water. Everything's turning over beautifully, and that high-vis braided loop that I've greased up looks nice and visible, very visible on top of this dark water. And I'm going to fish this right up into the riffle, right into the shallows. Move up again. I've had them here in probably 6 inches of water before, barely enough to cover their backs, and they're sat at the top of that riffle, just taking the first bits of food that enter the pool through the quick water. Right, let's move upstream again. I do enjoy my summer fly fishing. I know traditionally spring is the time for the fly fishing, but there's something about being out on the river in summer. Of all the places to be, I don't think there's a finer place. In the cool shade of the trees and the sound of the water bubbling past. And even if you're not catching fish at this time of year, it's a joy to be out. But I have to say, I tend to do very well in summer. I don't know whether it's just the rivers I fish are more inclined to fish well in summer, but especially on the Nymph, I think as the water levels retreat, the fish can become a little more concentrated into certain pools, and instead of, you know, picking off solitary fish, you can be going through riffles and having 4 or 5 fish out of a pool or a riffle, where in springtime, when the water's higher, there may have just been one or two. They seem to concentrate themselves a bit more, as of course they will do as the water levels drop. Right, I'm really into the thin stuff now at the top of the riffle, so let's see if there's anything lurking right up here in this. Must be only 8 inches of water here. Might be a little trout up there in the very, very thin stuff, sometimes a little 6-inch brownie. Let's have a go. Right, a few more casts I think, and I've run out of pool here. 2 or 3 more, just in case they're in this very thin stuff. I think we're approaching the limit now of what's going to hold a fish, and we're going to start catching the rocks. Yep, that's me done with this pool. Let's have a wander upstream, and there's a couple more runs I want to have a go at, and then there's a bridge pool further up as well that can either hold fish or not. It tends to be an autumn-winter pool for grayling. It doesn't hold too much in summer, but fishes very well through the winter. But we'll have a go at that anyway, and then I'll be done. I've only got an hour today, as usual. Nothing rising at all on the river. It looks pretty much devoid, but there'll be plenty of fish down there. I just said that and I've just seen a fish rise at a midge. I'm going to cover this pool here quickly. It's probably more suitable for spiders, this. But, the water's a little bit thin, but we'll see if we can winkle one out. Sun's coming out now. There's streaks of sunlight coming through the trees, illuminating the patches of water, and it really does show up the colour in the water here. It's got very much a brown tinge to it. I think here I need to get one. Got lots of trees on the right bank, and there's lots of saplings that are hanging over the river, and I think that's the line that the fish will be in. That's where I saw that little rise. So I'm going to try and put a cast as near as I dare right over the other bank under those trees and run my nymph down. Nope, nothing there, so try some more mid-river casts. Even though the river looks quite slack here, it's actually running at a fair pace. It's still decent nymphing water. If you're going to fish a nymph, you really need to be fishing in water that's got pace to it. You're allowing that nymph to tumble down with the current and fit in with all that other natural food that's tumbling down the stream. The river widens a bit here, and just ahead of me there's a little island in the centre of the river, covered in very high bits of vegetation and plants, but it actually splits the river into two, so we've got 2 separate riffles on both the left and the right side of the river that's filling up this little pool here. And what I might try and do is cover both of them if I can. Oh, sweaty now, very humid and hot. Right, I think we'll do this channel on the left bank first and then I'll come across to the right. I'm glad I got out nice and early this morning because in an hour from now it's going to be too hot to be out fishing. And I ummed and ahed yesterday about going over to the coast to target some of the coal fish and pollock on the fly, and I nearly went, and then I kind of head ruled over heart, and I thought, you know what, it's just too hot. And in the end I'm so glad I didn't. When I saw the thermometer on the backyard hitting 30, one of the best days saltwater fly fishing I ever had was in a great big storm, really high winds, kind of 30-40 mile an hour gales, and I got a 10 weight shooting head on just to try and get some kind of cast out, and I could barely get the cast out 15-20 feet off the rocks, but I think I had 15 or 20 pollock, and the sea was rough and hitting the rocks and foaming, and it just seems to be good conditions. So a flat, calm sea and bright sunshine I don't think would have made particularly good fishing conditions anyway. Right, let's have a go at this left channel here, and then I'll have to come back across and have a go at the right channel. Nice and quick here. Really, I'm just strip back to pick up that slack line off the water. I think I'll do this and then I'll probably get out and head on up to the bridge pool and have a go at that. I'm casting here, what, 20 feet, something like that, including leader. Right into the tongue of current, the bit where the current's nice and streamy and it's been pinched. And hopefully that well will be a fish waiting to intercept the food that's coming down that channel. For those of you that listen regularly to the podcast, you'll know I'm a great fan of the Sawyer's killer bug, especially for grayling. It is a phenomenal fly. Such a simple fly, but it's the weight that I like. It's if you tie it well, it's heavy enough to get down, and it's a really good nymph to get down amongst the rock, but it's still light enough to cast it with a traditional cast. So you can get a nice upstream cast and a long line if you need to. And it just seems a great prospecting fly. All times of year as well. Summer, spring and winter obviously for the grayling too. Actually looking at that riffle on the right hand side now, I think I'll leave it. There's not much water there. Maybe one cast or two just in the one bit. Let's finish our fishing this one on the left first. Rocks littered all over the stream here, but mainly confined to the middle of the river, and the big nice streamy tongues of current are coming in on the left and the right and just avoiding those loose rocks, so it's quite easy to get a cast out and let it drift down. From memory, it only tends to be the odd fish in here. They don't seem to be, they'll just hold one or two. Not like some of the other pools here where you'll expect to get several out. But it's worth a cast. Right, I think that's that covered. So I'm just going to put a cast into this little riffle on the right. Just there's a couple of spots where it's worth a dibble. And then I think I'll get out. Right, I've had a couple of casts there. I think that'll do. I'll get out, walk up the river, fish the bridge pool, and then that'll be more or less me done, I think. There are two nice Graylings, so I'm a happy man with those two under these conditions. Right, let's get up and get out of here. And the birds certainly seem chipper with this hot weather. At home we've just seen we've got swifts that nest in the roof, and those chicks, or most of the chicks, just fledged yesterday, and they've been tearing around the house, screeching, getting up all excited, ready to leave for the year. Blackbirds are going crackers today here. Whew. Certainly getting a dab on walking up there. Right, here's the bridge. Let's get down to the river and have a fish up this bridge pool. Like I say, this pool can go either way. Normally it's winter, it's a cracking spot for the Grayling, but spring and summer it can be all or nothing sometimes. Let's put a few casts out and see what happens. River's a bit narrow here and less trees, but more vegetation, especially in the left bank. There's a big fringe of green vegetation that very often has fish sat under it, and there's a very strong channel of water on the left hand side and a more tamed riffle over the rest, but it's a definite pool, and the fish can be anywhere here. And again, you've got to really cover the deep kind of powerful run on the left fishes very well with a check nymph, but I'm not going to chop and change. I'll just cover it with the killer bug and see if anything grabs that. So I'm landing the fly right up in the head of the riffle if I can, and then just letting the fly drop as it comes down with the river, cover water. The sky is beginning to blue now. You can just see that hazy cloud being burnt off, and I think any minute now we're really going to get that full force of summer sun. Pigeons are going crazy in the trees next to me doing their business, as they do all year round. Let's step over to my left and see if I can get a few in this channel here. It's hard to fish it with an upstream nymph. You really need a check nymph here just to get down, and they tend to be flush on the bottom here. Oh, fish just risen there. I'll cover that. Probably a little trout flicking up, splashing at a midge. Just keep that cast going upstream, keep working it down, watching the braided loop. And all the time when I'm nymph fishing, I've got my fish head on, so I'm looking at the different current streams, the bubble streams, the topography of the river, the cover, and all the time I'm working out the likely areas where fish are going to be holding. And then at the same time, in my peripheral vision, I'll be noticing a tail flick up or a splash. But quite often I'm using my ears to almost see the rises, so I'll be fishing and I'll just hear a rise and then get a rough locator on it, and then it's just keeping an eye out, and then quite often you'll see the rise and the fish comes up next time. Especially useful if you're fishing a dry fly and you really trying to take fish off the surface. Always marking the rises or sounds of rises as you're fishing. And it's amazing over the years how your peripheral vision trains itself to notice fish, even when you're not really looking in that direction. And your mind just gets drawn to it. Right, I'm getting up into the thin stuff now, but that's not a problem. I'm still hopeful we'll get some kind of take in here. Oh, I says that and I missed it. Even what I would call an obvious rise of a fish, when I'm out instructing, you'd be amazed how many people I'm out with, and we'll be stood in the river, you know, fishing upstream, and there'll be a big rise in front, and I'll say, did you see the fish? And they're completely oblivious to it. And it's, I think, something that people don't appreciate when they're first starting off with a river fly fishing, that it takes quite a lot of time to train your brain to actually see the rises and see the fish, you know, as well as all the casting technique and fishing technique and those things as well. It's just something that happens over time. Also seeing the take, especially when you're nymph fishing, you know, actually seeing that line just slow down and stop. Many times when I'm teaching people nymph fishing, the technique's good and we're getting the fly presented well, and the braided connector stops and there's no strike, and the angler just hasn't comprehended or noticed that the actual fish is taken. And especially with these grayling, they can be pretty quick, and they can spit that fly, and before you know it, you're striking into nothing. Right, I had one take. I'm just going to cover a bit of different water. Move over to this left. Just occasionally there's a trout sat up in the head of this riffle here, in the fast stuff. There's just a little bit of glare on the river here, and it's a little harder to see the braided connector. I can just about make it out. Right, let's cover the very fast thin stuff at the top of this pool. The sun's really warming my face now, so I've timed that just right this morning. I picked up a little leaf. Let's just take that off. Well, the sun's now beating down and it's gone very hot, very bright. I've had two lovely grayling. It was just a short session this morning, but I think I'm going to wind in and call that a day. As ever, thank you so much for listening. For more information on our fly fishing coaching, please visit us at www.peaksflyfishing.com, or to buy all our range of premium fishing flies, it's shop.peaksflyfishing.com. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.
Thank you.